Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on the John Campea YouTube channel. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it? Especially if you love the movies.
Hey, my name is King, or as some of you might know me better, Israel. I've gotten around, but hopefully you recognize me from my own channel, King Tannic. There's a new show coming to the Burnettwork that I think is pretty exciting. Welcome to the Otaku Experience, hosted by yours truly. There is going to be a weekly series where we dive into the news and the world of anime, manga, and whatever the heck else Japan has to offer us. The show will be pre-recorded and premiere on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Time or 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Burnettwork YouTube channel.
Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your archbishop of Banterbury, your evangelist of the imagination, and of course, your existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, me, Robert Meyer Burnett. And welcome to a special, late night Robservations. This is Robservations number 840, and I am Robcasting live at you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. And I have to give a shout out to my friend Dan Coyle, who sent me this article that I read earlier today. And even though I've been on puppy duty and all of those kinds of things, I couldn't stop thinking about it. You know, I have to say that I've been an avid Hollywood watcher, a studier of the entertainment business since I was a little kid. I mean, I've loved Hollywood, since my first favorite movie, Byron Haskin's original 1953 War of the Worlds, was the first movie that I ever said was my favorite. I remember going to the Oregon coast when I was 5 years old and spending the 3.5 hours it took to go to Gearhart next to Seaside, all the way from Seattle, where I'm from, and recounting the entire plot in minute detail. My 5-year-old brain was telling my grandmother this, and she indulged me, and she listened to the entire plot all the way down, and she thought it was funny that the original War of the Worlds in the early 70s was my favorite movie, considering it was it was almost 25 years old. But ever since then, I've been an avid watcher, not just of movies and TV, but of Hollywood itself, the business of Hollywood. My good friend Taylor White, who I met at the 42nd World Science Fiction Convention in Anaheim, California. My friend Shade Roop and I had taken a road trip to California, a 2-week road trip. Went to San Francisco and Palm Springs, all to go to Worldcon at Anaheim, the Anaheim Convention Center, which I was just at WonderCon. Nothing changes, but we were in high school, and it was between my junior and senior year and his sophomore and junior year. And it was, I guess, two guys taking a long road trip in high school might not have been the most. I mean, this was in the early days of, it was mid-'80s. It wasn't a normal thing to do, but it was pretty cool. I saved up a bunch of money all summer at my job to spend on memorabilia. But when I met my friend Taylor, who was selling stuff, I bought a lot of stuff at his table. He and I developed a friendship, and he started sending me articles in the trades. He would cut things out. He used to send me these giant envelopes full of stuff that were pertinent to the business of Hollywood, not just from the trades, but from other industry papers and things that I really didn't get in Seattle where I was growing up. I didn't subscribe to Variety. I wasn't that aware of the trades, but I loved sneak previews and At the Movies and That's Entertainment, anything to do with the making of motion pictures. And even back then, I mean, it was in the early days. That year was the first year Criterion put out its very first 2 releases on Laserdisc. It put out Citizen Kane and King Kong, both of which I bought. The CAV, the constant angular velocity Laserdiscs, where you had interactivity. You could go by frame, and that was really the first time I'd seen special features. But I loved the business of Hollywood. And what's been really interesting to watch is where the business is at. People talk about disruptors or disruption to the entertainment business. There's a lot of that now. There has been over the last 10 years. The normal models have changed. Home video changed. I mean, they used to rely on things like DVD income to offset any losses a theatrical release of a film might have. I mean, we've all seen the Hot Ones clip of Matt Damon talking about how that changed the business. Obviously, streaming, the rise of streaming over the last decade has changed the business, and what people thought was going to happen has not happened the way people thought it was going to happen. So the business has been in flux. But one of the things that I've mostly been interested in looking at is how are these new players, Apple Plus and Amazon, going to fare, because they are very well-funded companies. Basically, they have endless amounts of money. They can do whatever they want in the entertainment space. And both companies are making programming not as their primary business. But if you think about it, Amazon wants you to sign up for Prime, which is essentially for shipping. And Apple is making content they want you to watch it on their devices. So while both have started companies to make content, their companies don't rely on the content they make to do anything but drive their core business, which in Amazon's case is to buy products from Amazon and get them shipped to your house. And in Apple's case, they want you to buy their, and I have to admit, I've been an Apple guy since the mid-'80s. When I bought that first Macintosh when I moved to LA in 1988, I got a deal at USC when I first started going to USC to buy a Macintosh. And that's where I bought my first computer. And I had been using a Macintosh since the mid-'80s at the Evergreen State College, where I was at before I transferred to USC. So I've been a big Apple guy for the better part of 4 decades. And my Amazon order list goes back to the 90s. So, and you can go back and look at it, which is crazy to see. Well, one day somebody's going to write the great novel, and part of it is going to be how you chart your life based on your Amazon order list for the last 25 years. What that says about me, I don't know, but it's true. But anyway, look, the business is all in flux. Man, that Bob Iger, that Disney shareholder call, ooh, what a barn burner. You can read all about that. I'm sure there's going to be op-eds about what was said, what wasn't said, who said what to whom. It's crazy out there. It really is. But interesting. And to be honest, William Goldman, the great William Goldman, who wrote things like The Princess Bride, he wrote the novel and the screenplay, wrote the screenplay for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He wrote a book that I recommend all of you read. Wait, I didn't say that. Wait, Kyle Fiedler says, don't report false information that Amazon does not make money off of retail. I didn't mean to insinuate that at all. What I meant to say was the reason they make content is to drive their retail business, not that they don't make money off. Of course, they make tons of money off it. I can drive you to 10 Amazon warehouses within 10 miles of my house. I didn't mean to say that at all. What I meant to say was that making content is not, they're not making content, they're not making television and movies as their own business. They're making it to drive, when you buy an Amazon Prime membership, then you can watch their content. That's what I meant to say. So I didn't mean to insinuate that they weren't making money off retail. Anyway, I wanted to start by reading an article, and this was on TechCrunch in 2017, and it's about Amazon, and it's by Sarah Perez, and it was published on October 30th, 2017. And I had it all teed up, but apparently, hold on, let me give me a moment here, and let me fix what I've got going. I don't understand why I've lost the plot, as it were. I don't understand why. I thought I had it all ready to go, but hold on one moment. There we go. So let me just put this back where I had it set up so I can share the article with you as I read it. Although I know some people find that annoying, but I mean, what can I tell you? So anyway, so this article comes from TechCrunch, and it was published on October 30th, 2017. So here's the article. Following exec shakeup, Amazon Studios announces expansion plans. Again, by Sarah Perez. Amazon today announced plans to expand its TV and movie division, Amazon Studios, which includes relocating to a new location in Culver City, California. The physical move coincides with Amazon's plans to increase hiring across new roles in creative, technical, marketing, and legal, the company said. According to Amazon's website, there are currently 84 openings in Santa Monica for Amazon Studios. The announcement follows quite a bit of house cleaning at the executive level at Amazon Studios in recent days, including most notably the departure of studio chief Roy Price among harassment allegations. After Price, Amazon Studios head of unscripted Conrad Riggs also left, as did the head of comedy, drama, and VR, Joe Lewis. Variety reported Lewis had been under internal investigation for his behavior and reportedly pressured producers into casting his girlfriend, Yara Martinez, in Amazon's original series, The Tick. Riggs, meanwhile, had helped Amazon bring former Top Gear host Jeremy Clarkson to Prime Video, Variety also said, but the show had not lived up to the hype. Other unscripted series failed too, including American Playboy, The Hugh Hefner Story, and Eat the World with Emeril Lagasse, the report noted. In addition, Apple this month hired away Amazon Studios exec Morgan Wandell in its push for scripted programming. Wandell had most recently served as Amazon's head of international series. Despite these shakeups among the exec ranks, the Amazon Studios division itself is still growing. Amazon says its new office space at the Culver Studios will occupy more than 280,000 square feet and will house not only Amazon Studios but also IMDb, Amazon Video, and worldwide advertising. The studio space was originally developed by silent movie pioneer Thomas Ince and has been home to productions including Gone with the Wind and Citizen Kane. Amazon noted in today's announcement. We are very excited about being a part of a 100 years of movie and TV history at the Culver Studios, said Albert Chang, head of Amazon Studios, in a statement. Chang has been serving as interim head of Amazon Studios following Roy Price's suspension. Most importantly, this new LA-based office will give us the much-needed space for our team to work and grow so we can keep bringing Prime members the very best in series and movies, Chang added. Amazon has already been making a name for itself in Hollywood, with Emmy wins for shows like Transparent, as well as The Man in the High Castle and Mozart in the Jungle. Amazon also took home the Best Picture nomination for any streaming service with Manchester by the Sea, by the way, an excellent movie, which also later won. However, it hasn't had as many hits, critical or otherwise, as rival Netflix. Many people see Prime Video as a nice-to-have upgrade with their Prime subscription, but not necessarily something that could stand on its own as a Netflix rival. However, Amazon is increasing its investment in streaming to further challenge Netflix and others. Its $4.5 billion budget in 2017 is due to increase next year, Variety said. The company also recently announced it would operate more like a traditional Hollywood studio by handling its own theatrical distributions. Amazon said today it employs over 700 people in Santa Monica, California, and will begin moving into the new office space located at 9336 West Washington Boulevard in Culver City at the end of this year. Again, that was October 2017. man, lots has changed. We're 5.5 years away from that. And there was a really interesting, again, a very interesting article published in the Hollywood Reporter today that I would also like to share with you. Now, keep in mind, this is 5 years later. This article is by the great Kim Masters, who has been covering the entertainment business for as long as I can remember. And I would say that Kim Masters is essential reading if you are a fan or interested in all of the inner workings of Hollywood and the entertainment business. So here is that article. And I will stop to opine as I go along. Now, here's the headline. Inside Amazon Studios, big swings hampered by confusion and frustration. Despite ambitious bets like Daisy Jones and the Six and the upcoming Citadel. Now, Citadel is the new series coming from the Russo brothers that stars Richard Madden, Rob Stark himself, and our favorite Ana de Armas from No Time to Die. And it's a very expensive-looking spy thriller show. Stanley Tucci's in it as well. Looks terrific. Amazon, in my mind, has great programming. Really great stuff. And those two shows that it cites here in the article, Daisy Jones and the Six, is terrific, based on a book that may or may not be about Fleetwood Mac. Come on, we all know it is. But anyway, so despite bets like Daisy Jones and the Six and the upcoming Citadel, insiders complain there's still no vision for what an Amazon Prime show is. But Chief Jen Psaki says they're missing the point. You don't reverse engineer true creative vision. That's promising. It's long been an open secret that Jeff Bezos has yearned for his own Game of Thrones, and that Amazon's big swing as it reached for its own massive hit was Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, believed to be the most expensive series ever made. Not believed to be, it is, by a wide margin. Last September, the show began with a bang, delivering the biggest debut ever on the streamer in what Amazon Studios chief Jennifer Psaki called a very culturally defining moment for the company. But when season 1 wrapped, the show was less defining than hoped, falling short of being the breakout hit that Amazon had envisioned. Falling short is a wild and massive understatement. While Amazon, like other streamers, provides only limited data, and internally it held information even more closely than usual on this series, sources confirm that The Rings of Power had a 37% domestic completion rate. That is customers who watch the entire series. Now, I have reported before on this channel and on the John Campea show that Netflix believes that if they only have a 50% completion rate, meaning all the viewers that start watching the show, those viewers must complete watching a show. At least 50% of the viewers should finish. And if they don't finish the show, if that rate is 50%, meaning, once again, of all the viewers who start watching a show, if they don't reach a 50% completion rate, meaning everybody watches all the episodes in the series, if it's less than 50%, Netflix cancels the show. It's a failure. I mean, that's a failing grade. So let's be clear. Sources confirm that The Rings of Power had a 37% domestic completion rate. That's here in America, domestic completion rate. Amazon would, Netflix would have cut that show. No questions asked. Gone. Because a 37% completion rate is, the failure of that is massive. I mean, you can't, and listen, this goes into the management of intellectual properties, of which I think a lot of the studios are falling short. And part of the reason is because the people at the top and the people that are hired to run these IPs don't know anything about them. And I would dare say that and I've said this on the show before, I really don't understand if you have an IP like Lord of the Rings and you're going to spend $1 billion on it, the first thing that you should do, and I think all the studios should do this for their IPs, is hire a group of people that know the IP backwards and forwards. Now, every time I say this, people are like, Rob, are you angling for a job on Star Trek? I've actually been a paid Star Trek consultant for Viacom licensing back in the 90s. Yeah, I was hired to be a Star Trek consultant originally because Viacom Interactive had made a Voyager game that Viacom licensing hated. And Viacom licensing couldn't say to another company, another division of their company, we hate this game, get rid of it. So they hired me. I was literally hired to tell Viacom Interactive or to write a paper explaining why this game not only was bad Star Trek, but just a bad game. That's all. That's what I was hired to do. And I did it. And then they retained me to do other work. So I was a Star Trek consultant. And I will tell you this. There's been other people that have been Star Trek consultants after me. And I would say that anybody, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Harry Potter, whether it's Lord of the Rings, anybody that's going to spend $1 billion on anything, you better fucking have a group of people that know exactly what it is you're spending the money on. You need a group of people to tell you if what they're going to make is good or not. Because if you don't, you wind up with what Amazon wound up with Rings of Power. Now, I would say to anybody, if you like the show, more power to you. Don't let anybody ever tell you what you should or shouldn't like. However, what people also need to do is understand how to recognize the difference of good and bad. And when I say that, it's not just your personal preference. It's understanding the mechanics of storytelling, having a little bit of background in literature, in film history, really understanding from a critical perspective what's good and bad on it, not just whether you like it, but to bring sort of an objective acumen. But I do think, and there are people out there that you can hire to do this. I don't understand why there isn't more. I'll tell you something. There is one studio executive that I've met, actually the president of 20th Century Studios, who I don't think we read enough about, but a gentleman named Steve Asbell, who worked his way up from internship at 20th Century Fox back in the 90s. That man knows more about genre material, genre storytelling, whether it's Star Trek, Aliens, Predator, you name it. That guy's the real deal. He's the president of 20th Century Studios, and you don't hear about him. But of all the people I've ever met in high-ranking positions in Hollywood, that guy's the real deal. He knows his shit. And I'll tell you something, I would call him Admiral level. I saved this label for a few people. But Steve Asbell, the president of 20th Century Studios, is Admiral level geek. And not only that, but he came up through the story department. The man understands stories. Got a cold. I don't understand why there aren't people like him in charge of all the studios, or at least in charge of what gets made and how it gets made and who's making it. Because, he's one of the people I think recently, Prey, the Predator film Prey, Fede Alvarez's Aliens, Romulus, whatever that's going to be. I think that's just a working title. He's responsible for those. The Boston Strangler, that's on Hulu now. Things like that. I wish there was more people like him. But why the studios, why Amazon would spend $1 billion and hire people? I don't mean to, once again, I don't know what the Bad Robot and its legacy. There are some people that have come out of Bad Robot, like, hey, Matt Reeves, incredible creator. But the guys who wrote Star Trek Beyond, running look, whether you, the Rings of Power, I thought, was a terrible television show. And if you put it up against, say, House of the Dragon, or just about anything, it's not good. And you'd think with that kind of money, you would get the people that knew more about Lord of the Rings than anyone else in the world to at least consult, or have a consulting group to vet the scripts or something, because then you wind up with you end up with a 37% domestic completion rate. But let me go on. Overseas, it reached 45%. A 50% completion rate would be a solid but not spectacular result, according to insiders. Look, a 50% completion rate would take your show to the bubble as far as Netflix was concerned. The show has not been a major awards contender either, overlooked by the major guilds with the exception of one SAG-AFTRA nomination for Stunt Ensemble. But according to Salke, the series has worked. Well, what's she going to say? It hasn't worked. This desire to paint the show as anything less than a success, it's not reflective of any conversation I'm having internally. Yeah, because no one wants to have that conversation with you, Jen. Don't let me be the one to bring you bad tidings. She says, the second season currently in production will have more dramatic story turns, she adds. What does that mean? More dramatic story turns? You mean the creation of Mordor in an afternoon wasn't a dramatic story turn for you? It's just, this is the problem. Jennifer Salke does not know fuck all about Lord of the Rings. And the fact that she's answering these questions, I understand how she has to, but come on. Come on, Jen. When was the last time you read Lord of the Rings? You know what the answer to that question is? Never. You never read Lord of the Rings. And you didn't read the appendices. You didn't read the Silmarillion. You didn't read anything else that Christopher Tolkien came up with. None of it. You just didn't do it. I mean, come on. You and I know it. Everyone knows it. But that's okay. Data from Nielsen on minutes watched reveals that when it comes to original shows generally, Amazon has lagged. In 2022, Netflix hoovered up the top 10 spots for original streaming series, with Amazon's The Boys in 11th place, ahead of The Rings of Power at number 15. Using the same measurement, none of the top 15 originals of 2021 came from Amazon. Netflix again took all the slots except for Hulu's The Handmaid's Tale in 10th place, Apple's Ted Lasso at 12, and Disney Plus's WandaVision in the 14th spot. Now, here's the thing. I would say this. Remember, Netflix has a huge head start over any streamer with perhaps the possible exception of HBO. HBO Max. HBO is still the Tiffany standard in terms of great streaming content, and it probably will be. Well, we'll see what happens under David Zaslav and Warner Discovery, but HBO has been around for a lot longer. And, let's face it, Amazon, I don't think, people don't even know which shows are on Amazon. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, I mean, okay. I still think Amazon, to be fair, is producing a lot of great programming. They really do. It's just that Amazon is not, when you think of Amazon, the first thing you don't think about your favorite TV show, your favorite streaming series. That's not what you think about when you first think about Amazon. As a matter of fact, to get their streaming series, you have to buy Amazon Prime, which gets you a certain amount of shipping a year. Even Amazon Prime doesn't even tell you that, oh yeah, right, I can watch Amazon shows now because I've renewed my Prime membership. So many current and former Amazon executives, as well as showrunners who have series at the streamer and agents who make deals there, believe that this is no accident. They describe Amazon Studios as a confusing and frustrating place to do business. When it comes to movies, where Amazon's footprint is expanding following the $8.5 billion acquisition of MGM a year ago, a veteran producer says that in recent years, there's been no sense of what the philosophy is. I would dare say that anyone who knows physical media also knows that Amazon is willing to license out any of MGM's library to anyone who wants to put out a great piece of physical media. Shout out to Vinegar Syndrome and their beautiful box set of Roadhouse. And guess what's coming next? That's right, Showgirls. I mean, Amazon, they bought MGM, and they're not even doing anything with the MGM library. Why don't they set up something? And to be fair, they don't own the glory days of the MGM library, but they own some of the MGM library. They do. But Ted Turner bought a lot of it. I mean, it's a lot of craziness happening. But hey, if you want to license out an MGM title that they own and make a great 4K physical media piece for it, you can. They'll do it. On the series side, numerous sources say they cannot discern what kind of material Salke and the head of television, Vernon Sanders, want to make. A showrunner with ample experience at the studio says there's no vision for what an Amazon Prime show is. You can't say they stand for this kind of storytelling. It's completely random what they make and how they make it. Another showrunner with multiple series at Amazon finds it's baffling that the streamer hasn't had more success. Amazon has more money than God, this person says. If they wanted to produce unbelievable television, they certainly have the resources to do it. But Salke believes the studio's approach fits Amazon's broad remit. I have never been one to say to the creative community, we need 5 action franchise shows and 3 workplace situation comedies. That's the kiss of death, she says. You don't reverse engineer true creative vision. We're programming for over 250 million households across the entire globe. We would say we have a big, broad audience, and we are looking for content that entertains the 4 quadrants. That is male and female, under 35 and over 35. Okay. So they'll just make anything. The problem is, if you think about the various periods of time that movie studios existed, some were known, like MGM, for musicals. MGM at one point was known for film noir and gangster movies. And the thing about Amazon is, here's the thing. I get it. They want to make, they're entertaining 250 million people, 250 million households across the globe. That's a lot of households. That's a lot of people. But here's the thing. They've got to have something like, how about a science fiction division? Why not that? Why don't they hire an executive that is like a guy like Steve Asbell, who could come in? Now, he's already president of 20th Century Studios, but why not have somebody who wants to be an executive, because they can make anything they want. Amazon's made a lot of interesting genre programming. Why isn't there a horror executive? Why isn't there a drama or a rom-com, or who knows? Why not have different genre executives? You're Amazon, you can make whatever you want. Why not do that? I mean, it's amazing to me. What the fuck does Jennifer Salke know anyway about movies? What's her favorite? She doesn't even say, like, here's what I want to make. No studio executive is like the days of yore where they're like, you know what? Here's what I want to make. I want to make this, whatever. I want to make these things. This is what I want to make. And go make them. Find the people that you want. Go hire the best people in the world. You have the money to do it. Why not? How does Amazon not sit there and go, okay, we would like to make these things. We want to acquire these things. If someone came to me and said, okay, Rob, we're going to give you $5 billion. You can make whatever you want. I'll tell you some things I would go put into production. Donna Tartt's The Secret History. Does Gwyneth Paltrow still own the rights? Don't know. I would go get that. I'd go make it. I'd go get Glenn Duncan's book, The Last Werewolf. It's owned by RSA, or at least it was. Go get that. I'd go make that right now. There's 3 of those books. I'd go make them. Put it in production right now. Probably pick out whoever I wanted. I'd get David Fincher and see if he wanted to do either one of those movies. I'd kill to see The Secret History directed by David Fincher. Don't know if he'd do it, but I'd go to him. And this is my first day on the job. I would find out who has the rights to the Hyperion Cantos. They've been trying to make that forever. Somebody owns it. Pay off all the money that's already been put against it and go make that. I would be like, okay, what more do you want to do? Pick a book. There's a book by a guy named Robert Goddard called Impale Battalions. Go fucking make that. I don't even know if that's owned. But how can Jennifer Salke and the people that run Amazon Studios not have 100 things they want to make? I mean, to be in Hollywood, to have literally an endless war chest of stuff. How can you not have executives that don't have a list of things that they want to put into production? And more than that, they can handpick who they want to make them. Why aren't those executives out there? Or why aren't they doing that? Why are they hiring untried showrunners to make $1 billion Lord of the Rings TV series? How did that happen? Don't know. But it doesn't make any sense to me that I'm reading this article. Anyway, let's go on. You don't reverse engineer true creative vision. Yes, but you know where creative vision has to start? With you, Jennifer Salke. With you at the top. I mean, you're just going to randomly go find a bunch of people. Anybody in the world will say whatever they can to get your Amazon dollars to make their project. You know? But where's your creative vision? Why don't you know what you want to make? As a matter of fact, why don't you know what you want to make for the next 25 years? I don't know. I mean, books alone. There's so many books. I mean, hell, I was looking into getting the rights to a book called Waystation by Clifford D. Simak. It won the Hugo Award, 1963. Started looking into it, and then I opened up Variety, and then who got it? His team, Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves. I guess we both read the new printing of it or something. I'm like, well, there goes that up in smoke. Has that gotten made? No. Why isn't it gotten made? Because it says it's going to be an epic science fiction story. The whole point behind it is it's not epic. It's epic in terms of what it means, but it's all basically set in a house. And why haven't you made that, Matt Reeves? Why not? Why don't you go get that book and go make it? Don't know. But Jennifer Salke could. She could just hire people and put that shit into production. You know what? I'm going to make the writing of the script part of the pre-production process. You know, I'm just going to hire, I don't know, Steve Zalian. Whoever I want. John Spates. He'll write it. I'm just going to hire you right now. Anyway, don't know. So Jennifer says, you don't reverse engineer true creative vision. We're programming for over 250 million households across the entire globe. We would say we have a big, broad audience, and we're looking for content that entertains the four quadrants. Where are you looking? I can look in here, and I have at least 20 years of things that I would buy that are sitting in this room right now that I would go make. All kinds of things. Comic books, manga, Star Trek novels, although I couldn't make that, although I would if I was at Amazon asked to buy the Star Trek franchise. So much so, but, you know, she doesn't know. The question that makes many in Hollywood nervous is whether the Amazon Studios overlords in Seattle, where, by the way, I'm from, where growing up, it had more movie theaters per capita than any city in the world. It has one of the great film festivals of all time, the Seattle International Film Festival. How do you grow up in Seattle, or how are you in Seattle, and how do you not have people that know their film history? Unbelievable. The Amazon Studios overlords in Seattle believe they're getting enough bang for their megabucks. The last thing the industry wants at a time of belt tightening is a cutback in spending from a deep-pocketed buyer. If their executives don't know what they want to make and don't know what their vision is, how are you supposed to go in and even pitch somebody if they don't know what they want to make? I would think that, hey, if you're going to hit a target, you got to know where that target is. The proof exists that the giant tentpole shows are driving people to subscribe to Prime, Jennifer Salke says. Do we pressure ourselves to be more disciplined, more strategic? Of course. We consistently examine if we're producing the right amount of content at the right value to drive the most engagement across our service. The right amount of content at the right value to drive the most engagement. What is that content? What is that value? What is that engagement? How do you not know? Why are you talking in weird marketing speak? Why aren't you talking like a studio executive and say, this is what I want to make? It's so frustrating to read this kind of stuff. You know, it didn't used to be that way. The people that ran studios knew exactly what they wanted to make. I mean, if you look at Paramount in the 80s or even the early 90s, if you look at, like, they were making thrillers and they were making mid-level adult-oriented stuff, everything from Fatal Attraction, which, by the way, remade as a series. Oh, boy. I mean, a zeitgeist movie from 1987. Let's make it relevant today. You know, it's so frustrating. We consistently examine if we're producing the right amount of content at the right value to drive the most engagement across our service. What are you saying, Jennifer? What does that even fucking mean? What does content mean to you? I mean, my reels on YouTube are content. You don't even know. Do you want to make thrillers? Do you want to make horror films? Do you want to make dramas? What do you want to make? It's all content to you? How do you not know? How do you answer that question? Why are you saying we're producing the right amount of content at the right value to drive the most engagement across our service? You don't even know, because you're not looking. All you're looking at is analytics. You don't know what you want to make. You know what? If you're running a goddamn studio, you should know. You should know what you want to make. How is anyone going to pitch to you? How are you going to know? And what do you, if I were to come in and pitch a comic book adaptation to you, would you know if is it the right content at the right value to drive the most engagement? Did you know when you made The Boys that it would be, well, it didn't quite make the top 10, the number 11 streamer? Do you know why that is? Would you have known if you read the original comic book that would wind up being a hit for you? The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, would you have known that a character, that a secondary character that's actually the great comic Lenny Bruce would become a hit for you and an Emmy-winning series to boot? Do you even know who Lenny Bruce is? I don't know, Jennifer, but you got to do better. You got to do better. Like Apple, Amazon is not a traditional entertainment company, but a huge retailer with a side hustle in Hollywood. Amazon's view is that the more hours you spend watching Prime Video, the more likely you are to renew your membership, and the more likely you are to shop on the site. Remember, that's what's really going on at Amazon. That is what's going on. They're not interested in, that's the problem. Let's content, value, engagement. It's really all about just getting you to buy shit at Amazon, which is fine. As Amazon, like Netflix, pursues overseas growth in the wake of saturation in the U.S., Salke notes that in some countries like South Africa and Argentina, Amazon's programming is the tip of the spear, entering the territory before retail sales or fast, free shipping is even available. International is everything, she says. It's our business to deliver global shows for a global audience. Again, what does that even fucking mean? You know, Netflix has global shows. I can watch shows from France, India. You could watch for a while a Turkish horror film called Baskin. Believe that? A predominantly Muslim country makes an awesome, twisted horror film called Baskin about a bunch of cops going to do what they think is stopping a drug deal, and they take a wrong turn all the way to fucking hell. And it's pretty awesome. The late, great John Schnepp said to me, "Hey, have you seen Baskin? It's on Netflix." I said, "Really? What's that? Are they looking for robins?" Probably a bad joke, but he goes, "Don't read about it. Just watch it." And I did. And that blew my fucking mind, to be honest. It was very Clive Barker-esque, really, it was. But so anyway, international is everything. It's our business to deliver global shows for a global audience. Let's go back and look at this again. Global shows for a global audience. And we consistently examine if we're producing the right amount of content at the right value to drive the most engagement across our service. Jesus Christ, Jennifer. You need to step it up, babe. Really, I mean, what do you want to make? You must have a vision. What do you want to see? Have you ever read a book that hasn't been adapted into a movie yet? What might that book be? Because I got 100 I'll give you. I already gave you a couple tonight. They haven't been made. Somebody should make Donna Tartt's The Secret History, please. I know. Then someone's going to go, "Yeah, but Rob, the Goldfinch didn't do very well." Okay, what does the Goldfinch have to do with The Secret History? Same author, I get it. Look, man, I'm still pining away for Roger Avery to make Glamma fucking Rama. If you haven't read Bret Easton Ellis's Glamorama, well, one, shame on you, and two, how come they haven't made it yet? Although, to be honest, some of it's already been pilfered. I know, I'm losing the plot here. The streamer, Amazon, certainly has had its success stories, including buzzy shows like Transparent, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and Fleabag, and popular series like The Boys, Jack Ryan, Jack Reacher, and The Terminalist. Hey, you know what's really interesting about The Boys, Jack Ryan, Jack Reacher? Don't know about The Terminalist, but I believe all of those are based on books. The Boys, obviously a comic. Jack Ryan is a series of books. Jack Reacher is a series of books. And I believe The Terminalist is a book. But it has arguably never had a brand-defining show that is a commercial and critical juggernaut in the vein of HBO's Game of Thrones. Netflix's Stranger Things or Apple's Ted Lasso. And all of these Amazon series, except Jack Reacher and The Terminalist, were launched when Salke's predecessor, Roy Price, ran the studios. Price departed in 2017 amidst allegations of improper conduct. Salke took over in 2018. One of Salke's first greenlights was Daisy Jones and the Six, which, by the way, Jen, nicely done, great show, based on the Taylor Jenkins Reid novel and co-produced by Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine. Reese Witherspoon has quietly become a powerhouse in Hollywood. I would say that, my friend, is exactly the kind of thing you should be doing. So congrats to that. It's a great show. Lauren Naustater, president of film at Hello Sunshine, says she and Witherspoon had lunch with Salke just as she was starting Amazon. At Amazon, she was really clear and articulate in her vision for what she wanted to do with the job. Neustetter says, should we go back and read her comments? Was she, though? Reese and I both said Daisy is all the things she was talking about. The book, the show, the fashion. We had big dreams for this. I agree. Where's the Daisy Jones and the Six Daisy Jones and the Six fashion line? That's got to be out, right? Amazon put more than $140 million into the production, in part due to the high COVID protocol costs. The show dropped March 3rd with solid numbers and eventually topped Parrot Analytics' weekly engagement chart. The 2-year-old novel popped back onto Amazon's bestseller list, and the retailer is able to sell tie-in merchandise. Aurora, an album featuring songs from the fictional band, is climbing the Billboard charts. However, insiders say the show remains shy of the breakout hit the studio hoped for. Released around the same time, Donald Glover's Swarm is also delivering strong results for Amazon at a more modest $30 million budget. I would say both of these things, Jen, well done, congratulations, credit where credit is due. A far more costly and troubled production was the Russo brothers' Citadel, which debuts on April 28th. Anthony Russo says Salke first approached Agbo, the Russos' production company, with a general concept of making a U.S. show with an international foreign language version. Agbo came up with a global spy show where you would have a mothership U.S. language show alongside foreign language versions in other countries, Russo says. The various versions are related to one another, but they also exist independently and distinctly from one another. Some of the international shows may be set in different time periods, he adds. Amazon is committed to 3 seasons of 3 versions of the show. So far, local language production is underway in Italy and in early stages in India. We love the ability to communicate with people all over the world and to connect people through stories, Russo continues. Amazon and Jen basically brought us a brand new opportunity to do that at a scale that's never been attempted before. When you make $220 million movies that do not get theatrically released, like The Gray Man, these kinds of big swings are great, but they're not going to help you achieve. Look, you still need great characters and great stories. I think it's admirable that you want to make The Citadel in 3 different languages. That's fine, but why not make a hit in one language first and see if it works? Never put your universe before your stories and your character. You can't do that. I understand what you want to do, and the Russos, man, are getting while the getting's good. But man, do they spend a lot of money. But in December 2021, with production well underway, the Russo brothers decided to replace showrunner Josh Applebaum. It was clear after some audience feedback and discussion that some changes needed to be made, says Mike LaRocca, president and co-founder of Agbo. We felt like it needed some more character work early to draw people into the show. It was that straightforward. Applebaum declined to comment. Okay, first of all, that should never happen. You guys have to have good people before you're spending that kind of fucking money. I mean, what happened to people that know what they're doing? I mean, this is amazing. David Weil took over as showrunner. When Joe Russo came on set, a huge bunch of material was tossed out, an insider says. Sources say the cost of the series climbed toward $300 million. Making it Amazon's second most expensive show after Lord of the Rings. In an onstage March 10th conversation with Salke at South by Southwest, Priyanka Chopra said her work on Citadel was the first time she'd achieved pay parity in 22 years. That prompted some Amazon executives to joke internally that this was actually the first and second time since she and the other leads on the show got paid significantly more, planned due to the massive reshoots. First of all, can I just say, look, I admit it. I produced movies. I guess the most expensive movie I was a producer on was $23 million. $22 million, $23 million. Most are significantly less than that. A TV show that costs $300 million. Come on, man. Even with COVID protocols, this is not good producing. Not good producing. I can say that. I can honestly say that. Not good producing. That kind of thing should never happen. Amazon is being soaked, and the people producing the show are not doing their fucking jobs. But hey, everyone's getting paid twice. While the original plan called for 8-hour-long episodes, the show that will drop on Amazon in April ended up at 6 roughly 40-minute episodes for $300 million. Amazon has already renewed it for a second season of 6-hour-long episodes. There are a couple of relationships where I don't really understand the bet that's being made, says one Amazon veteran of the commitment to the project. But Jen believes in the Russos. Yeah, I'm sure the revenues from the Gray Man are right up there for him, that she can actually call up and go, hey, how'd that work out for you? The challenges of Citadel can happen with the best managed creative endeavors with the highest levels of talent, Salke says. No, they can't. No, they can't. There's been television shows made since the dawn of the television era, and nothing like that has ever happened, Jen. You're the first. You've made the first and second most expensive TV shows in the history of the medium. You know, there's lots of people that know how to make good TV, especially the Brits. And if you want to do a show like Citadel, I suggest you look at a show, well, in the UK it's called Spooks. It was called MI5 here. That's kind of what Citadel is kind of like. Or if you want to see how a really great show is produced, watch the 5-episode Torchwood miniseries, Children of Earth, directed by Euros Lyn. Check that out. And maybe have the Russo brothers look at something like that too. As a matter of fact, look to your friends at the BBC who make things like Bodyguard. $300 million for 6 40-minute TV episodes. That's some expensive television. Wow. Jennifer Salke says, given the choice of making it mediocre or fucking great, we made the right call there. Did you? Did you? And at the end of the day, our customers will be the judge. You know what? It could be the greatest fucking show in the world, but you spent $300 million to make 6 40-minute episodes of TV. I don't care if Jesus himself comes down from the heavens and says that Citadel is the greatest TV show ever made. Even he would say, you know what, Jen? I was talking to Dad today, and we said $300 million for 6 episodes of a 40-minute show. You got robbed. Yeah. And by the way, that should not be the precedent you're setting for your company. That means it was mismanaged from the beginning. Just saying. Hunters and A League of Their Own, which is ending with a truncated season 2, stand out as expensive disappointments of the Salke era. The latter cost in the ballpark of $90 million for 8 episodes, including a premium paid to Sony for certain rights. What generates some of the frustration that sources cite in dealings with Amazon is that Salke, who was previously president of NBC Entertainment, come on, man, seems to be pursuing conflicting goals. Despite her assertion that Amazon is a home for talent, insiders say the mandate is increasingly not on finding the kind of curated hit that defines HBO, but more middle-of-the-road meat and potatoes shows like Jack Reacher. You know what? If that's your middle-of-the-road meat and potatoes shows like Jack Reacher, why don't you concentrate on that? You know, the Lee Child series of Jack Reacher novels is fucking great. And I'll tell you something, there's a lot of, hey, I got a few for you. How about do a Dave Robichaux series? James Lee Burke. How about going, you want to do a psycho killer, the Special X Division of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police? Go get My boy Michael Slade's series. Go get that. Go look up Andrew Vox's Burke novels. There's 20 of those. Why don't you just focus on I mean, Netflix, they made a deal to buy one author's 10 of his books. Go get a bunch of series, man. Go make those. I mean, yes, they did make In the Electric Mist with Confederate Dead, maybe the Dave Robichaux novels, but I mean, come on. The Lincoln Lawyer, the Bosch series. Come on, I know they're not yours, but still. What generates some of the frustration that sources cite in dealings with Amazon is that Salke, who was previously president of NBC Entertainment, seems to be pursuing conflicting goals. We're desperate right now for safe hits, an Amazon exec says. Safe hits. Like Jack Reacher. Pretty good, right? But at the same time, current and former Amazon executives say Salke has a pattern of chasing what she perceives as hot. One insider puts it. That person cites as examples paying a premium for Daisy Jones because of the Witherspoon connection, or making a Dead Ringers series based on the 1988 Cronenberg film that came with Rachel Weisz attached. Okay, let me just tell you, I'm gonna be honest. David Cronenberg's one of my favorite directors, and that fucking trailer with Rachel Weisz looks bananas. And I am so there for you, Jen. I would never have done that, but I mean, you got some big clank and brass balls to have made that show, and I hope it's great. I hope. When I saw the trailer drop for that, by the way, nobody's talking about it. I had to go onto Twitter and be like, can we talk about Rachel Weisz in the Dead Ringers trailer? Literally nobody I know is talking about it. I'm like, David Cronenberg's finest film is Dead Ringers. I mean, some people, maybe it's most popular, but in terms of my favorite movie that Cronenberg made, yeah, everyone takes The Fly and The Dead Zone and all that, but fucking Dead Ringers. What a fine film. And this show looks bonkers. So I'm hoping it works out. I don't know who, if you're trying to make more meat and potato safe hits, came up with making Dead Ringers for you, but God bless you for green lighting it. Jen, love you. Love you. Amazon recently renewed The Peripheral. By the way, William Gibson, that's what I'm talking about, right up there. And you know, if The Peripheral's a hit, why not do the impossible? Why not make Neuromancer? Why not make Count Zero? Why not make Mona Lisa Overdrive? Just because I would like to see Mona Lisa Overdrive make it into the popular vernacular. So did you get her into Mona Lisa Overdrive? All the time. Yes, I did. Amazon recently renewed The Peripheral, a sci-fi drama from Jonah Nolan and Lisa Joy that cost close to $175 million for 8 episodes. Sources say their final 8-episode season of Westworld at HBO cost about $140 million. What is with you people? And how can I get in on some of this? I mean, you know what? I'll make a show for $40 million and pocket the rest. My God. I know great writers and showrunners that would be happy to do something for you. Amazon has ordered 6 additional hours of The Peripheral, despite what sources say has been lukewarm audience engagement. It probably should have been canceled, says an insider, but they made a mega deal, and the political capital they would lose with Lisa and Jonah would be too great, and they have other shows coming. Fallout, the next show from Nolan and Joy, is also extremely expensive. Nolan and Joy's deal has been worth $20 million a year since they signed on in 2019. By the way, can I just say something? I was excited for Peripheral, but I don't remember anyone ever mentioning that The Peripheral was written by visionary science fiction writer William Gibson, who coined the phrase cyberpunk in his 1984 novel Neuromancer. Never. I mean, you're just calling it The Peripheral, and you're like, from the people that made you Westworld. Well, even Westworld. I mean, I don't know, man. I read this and I'm just, this is unbelievable to me. Unbelievable. Salke's mantra that Amazon is a home for talent, home for very, 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 very expensive talent. This is not good for the business, Jen. It's not good for the business. This is why streamers are in trouble, because you're making these kinds of deals and you're not being an effective. I mean, if you were Warner Brothers, you wouldn't be around very much longer if you're spending that much money. Salke's mantra that Amazon is a home for talent. He adds, we cede decisions to powerful producers. We hold the line on other producers who do great work for us. Nolan and Joy declined to comment. Of course they didn't. They're getting $20 million a year, bro. Wow. Some rich Amazon deals have failed to produce anything at all. In the wake of serving as an executive producer on them, Lena Waite got a 2-year deal with $8 million a year that yielded nothing. In November 2021, she moved her banner to HBO Max. Jesus Cristo. And in September 2019, Amazon announced a deal with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who had just swept up 6 Emmys for the second season of Fleabag. The plan was for Waller-Bridge to collaborate with Donald Glover on a Mr. and Mrs. Smith series based on the 2005 film. But within a few months, Waller-Bridge departed the show due to clashing creative styles. Why would anybody think that Donald Glover, who has made great shows like, Atlanta, and now Swarm, which is pretty bonkers, why would you want to put him together with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who is in herself a powerhouse producer? That's weird. Her 3-year... But within a few months, Waller-Bridge departed the show due to clashing creative styles. Her 3-year deal at $20 million a year bore no fruit. Yet Amazon recently renewed it, announcing that Waller-Bridge would write but not star in a Tomb Raider series. Some Amazon insiders have questioned how much she will contribute to the project, noting that Amazon has been seeking a showrunner to help write and oversee it. You know what? I think you get the point. I'm going to put this link in the live chat, and I want everybody to read this. You know, I could go on and read the rest of this, but I'm not going to. I just read this, and I think anybody who is watching this show is probably looking and scratching their head as we listen to streamers talk about we have to cut back. I mean, my God. I'll tell you something. Donald Glover and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, they did work together before. They worked on Solo together. They did. But that doesn't mean that two creative entities, they should put them together to make a Mr. and Mrs. Smith series. Maybe one or the other. But my God, Donald Glover and Phoebe Waller-Bridge are both incredible creators in their own right. Why put them together? Anyway, just, wow. Boy, I don't even know what to say, man. I read this and I just think, how is it I haven't been able to get in on this? I clearly have been doing the wrong things and know the wrong people. But here's what I wanted to say. Ultimately, I think you're getting what I'm putting down. We need people that really know what they're doing in Hollywood. And when I started working in the entertainment business 34 years ago, I was a PA. I was an art department PA on Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. And that budget, if memory serves, was around $3 million. And you know what was really great about working on that movie? First movie I ever worked on. Even though the movie had a lot of trouble in post because it was rated X many times by the MPAA and they had to cut it to shit. And then maybe they realized it wasn't going to be the kind of franchise like Nightmare on Elm Street when you have, Nightmare on Elm Street's fun. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, while a great film as a franchise, not fun. It's hardcore. But anyway, what was great about the first movie I worked on, it taught me something very important. The people that work in production, for the most part, the people that work in production, when they have really strong producers at the top, are amazing and they do their jobs very, very well. But you have to have people. You have to have strong producers. You have to have a strong creative producer, a strong line producer. You have to have a strong showrunner. Whatever it is, you need people that know what they're doing. And you know what? There's a lot of people that know what they're doing in Hollywood. And the kind of money that is being thrown around at Amazon, and it sets a horrible precedent across the industry. There's no reason these things have to cost this much money. Really well-produced television should not cost $300 million for 6 episodes of 40 minutes. Never in the history of television, well, until now, should that have ever been allowed to happen. Anyway, I know as I'm prattling away, people might wonder, hey, are you ever going to get my super chats? Why, yes, I am. Let's jump right into it, and let's see where we're at. Bradley Michael says, who greenlit $40 million for Beau is Afraid? Well, I will tell you this. You have an Oscar-winning actor. You've got a visionary filmmaker. And I would say $40 million, relatively small for what could be a crazy, groundbreaking movie. I would make that bet. I would make that bet. I would make that. Jerry Mannanen, all the way in Finland, is a new member of the channel. Dragon Llama is a new member of the channel. Thanks for being there. Appreciate that. Our friend Michaelito, the great Michaelito, says Admiral Asbel needs to get busy on the Orville season 4. I don't know if he can do that, but I will convey that to him next time I see him or talk to him. I don't know when. You know, it's not often I talk to a president of a studio, but hey. Joe Panora says, they own Stargate now. Why are they sitting on it? Well, they probably have to find somebody who, why not get the Russo brothers and give them $300 million? I'm sure they'll get right on it. Mikey Lito says, with their Reacher and Bosch series, Amazon had the formula. A series based on novels with the authors involved as producers, great casts, and production. By the way, speaking of which, shout out the great Don Winslow. We have Austin Butler was announced as being the lead, Danny, in the trilogy, the Don Winslow trilogy of City on Fire, City of Dreams, and I don't know what the third one's called, but those are great books. I'm a huge fan of Don Winslow. It's great to see his work getting made. Shout out to Shane Salerno and the Story Factory and everybody out there. By the way, if you haven't read any of Don Winslow's books, I recommend them all. The first book I ever read of Don Winslow's was California Fire and Life. I love that book. And then I read all of his books. I think they should make the Winslow verse. These are 3 books that they're going to make. It's a trilogy, but you could do a whole series just like Mikey Lito. You're absolutely right. That's what Amazon should do. Tom Jr. Jackson, our own moderator, the great Tom Jr. Jackson. Thanks for that. A little super sticker. How's it going? It's going pretty well, I think. Ryan says, where Amazon and Disney struggle, HBO excels. What is their secret formula? Great taste. HBO has great taste in material and great taste in people. And by the way, if HBO makes something that isn't working, such as the Game of Thrones pilot, the time, for those of you who don't know, Game of Thrones, the first pilot, not the new series, but the actual first Game of Thrones pilot, they went and reshot. The book, they believed in the book and they went and reshot the pilot. It worked out well. And then they made a pilot for a new Game of Thrones series before House of the Dragon. Didn't like it, threw it out. That Naomi Watts starred in. Great taste. Loved seeing you on EFAP. Hope to see you on there again. You made me believe even more in Jurassic Park. Very nice verisimilitude. Well, Mahler asked me to do that, and I'm a big fan. So I agreed to do it. I thought it was a lot of fun. John Stevens sends in a $20 super chat. Just sending some love from down under, Uncle Bobby. I like that, Uncle Bobby. I guess I'm everyone's Uncle Bobby. Looking forward to daily Robservations again. I don't get to tune in live much, but I always appreciate all of your most excellent work. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's very nice. Cool tubification says, Rob, I just want to tell you I love how you talk. Well, thank you. That's very nice. I'll talk hard like Happy Hard Harry from Pump Up the Volume. I think Prime Video should adopt Dread and continue the story with Carl Urban. You know what? That's a great fucking idea. You know, go get those 2080 comics. I mean, look, you've got the Judge Child quest. There's so much, the Apocalypse War. There's so much stuff they could do. Yeah, that's a great idea. But you know what? They need somebody that's working over at Amazon to be like, hey, we should do this. I mean, hell, I'd get Howard Chaykin's American Flag. I'd do that. Come on, people. And I'd get Howard Chaykin to come in, and he's been on the staff of shows before, like Flash and things like Viper. I think he was on Viper. Bring in Howard Chaykin. because I would just like to have Howard Chaykin in a writer's room just to sit back and watch what would happen. Be worth it to me. But I think doing a Dredd series would be great. But you need somebody, of course, that knows what Dredd is. Roger Lurkman says, I can see why Campia got rid of you. You aren't afraid not to kiss the butt of those corporate types like he is. Kudos. Oh, didn't you know? I'm a corporate shill for Paramount, that I'm being paid to like Star Trek Picard season 3, and clearly I've got a job on the next Star Trek show as a writer and an editor and a producer and all those things. No, I'm just kidding. No, well, thank you. I appreciate that, Roger. No, I call it like I see it. It's frustrating to me to watch our business melting down as people are you know what? I don't begrudge anybody who's getting paid, but I'd like to see people look, all I've got is Tango Shalom. It's our little $1 million movie that took a long time to get made. I put a lot of time into it. I can barely get it seen, although it is streaming on Peacock and it is streaming on Amazon. I'm a producer of it. I was the editor of it. I'm the post supervisor of it. I was the visual effects supervisor and the voice of Moses. And all I'm saying is that there are people out there that know what they're doing. And there's no reason why $300 million should be spent on anything that is only 6 episodes long and 40 minutes an episode. Because when somebody spends that kind of money, it makes it that much harder for another great creator to make another great project that might cost 1/10 of that. And then we are deprived of great projects. And it's bad for the business. And we see it. Hollywood, we're looking down the barrel of a strike. You know, they won't pay writers, but they're going to make a $300 million 6 episode, 40-minute an episode series. I mean, and they won't pay writers. It's not cool, man. Not cool. But I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that for your kind words, sir. Joel Morford says, long live the new flesh. Yeah. How about that 4K Arrow release of Videodrome? Am I right? So good. Dieter Bastian says, 40 million in our sphere, that's called a Schnäppchen. For those of you who don't know, a Schnäppchen's a bargain. And if you don't know who Dieter Bastian is, you can tune in every Sunday at 11 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time, and you can watch Let's Get Physical Media. So there you go. Let's see. Thomas Logan, our man Thomas Logan. Ooh, you should get a package this week, Tom. Rob, if Paramount made you a suit in 2019 and the final script for Babylon landed on your desk, do you greenlight it? And what budget do you give Damien Chazelle? Yes, I greenlight it. I greenlight Babylon, and I have to read the script and break it down, but having looked at the movie, I mean, certainly all the money is on the screen. I would have bet on Babylon. I would have bet on Damien Chazelle coming off of, First Man, coming off of La La Land, coming off of Whiplash. Absolutely bet on Damien Chazelle. I would have to have read the script, but I would have bet on that movie. I would have bet on that film. I would have lost my shirt, but I would have bet on it. There's no reason why I wouldn't have bet on it. Mr. Locke says, you're better off on your own show where John doesn't get to interrupt you and cut you off early constantly while he also insults your friends from Geeks and Gamers and etc. Well, I mean, look, my whole philosophy of life, the philosophy of this channel, is I am interested in talking to everybody. I had some guy calling me out today because I'm friends with Nerdrotic because of other people Gary Beekler has spoken to in the past. I'm not my brother's keeper, and I will never not talk to somebody because of past associations. I know Gary. He's a father, he's a husband, and he's doing his gig. And he does a good job at what he does. Do I have to believe in all of his politics? No. But as I've said before, Gary Beekler is first and foremost, he is a fan. And I love the fact that Gary Beekler is a hardcore San Francisco alt-punk guy. He's exactly who I want him to be. And I have other friends just like Gary. Well, not just like Gary, but, similar to Gary, and I love him. And you know what? You know what I love about Gary? Gary Beekler is Gary Beekler. He's not trying to fool anybody, and I will always be friends with him, and I will always respect him. And the whole point of this channel is to foster dialogue amongst all of us, because first and foremost, we have a huge, wide-reaching fan community of people of all different shapes, size, colors, creeds, ideologies. I never thought I would live in a time, like, to be a science fiction fan, to be a genre fan as I am. I was going to conventions when I was 10. And it was very apparent to me when I first went to those conventions, there's a lot of different kinds of people there. And, we used to be able to talk to all different kinds of people. Now everybody wants to pre-hate somebody because of somebody they talked to, because somebody that they talked to did this thing back then. I mean, there's a lot of horrible people who do lots of horrible things. But you know what? If I can talk to somebody that I don't necessarily agree with, maybe I can learn something to not be that person. Or maybe in a conversation with that person, I can convince them to be less horrible. This idea that we can't talk to people is ridiculous. And the entire premise of this channel is that all of us should be talking to one another, at least while we're in the room, have a respectful conversation, and try and find some common ground, because that is the basis for civilization, and we're tearing ours apart because nobody can talk to each other anymore. And we pre-hate people. We pre-hate people we don't know. I mean, at least get to know somebody and then hate them. But it really is about all of these large fan communities. And yes, I understand a lot of people deal in hate and clicks and histrionics on, hey, whatever floats their boat. I stream with lots of different kinds of people, and I like them all. And I'll tell you, Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, and I watched Geeks and Gamers. We're politically incredibly far apart. But he reached out to me years ago and said, hey, we should stream. And I'm like, okay. And I'll tell you something. We had a great stream. He was incredibly nice to me, very polite, very thoughtful. We had, I thought, a very great conversation. Do I have to believe in everything the way Jeremy is all the time? I don't. Do I have to tell him how to run his channel? No. But you know what? If he shows me courtesy and we can have a conversation and talk amongst ourselves and share our fandom, well, then I think that we've made progress. We don't have to talk about politics, or I don't have to agree with everything he does. He runs a tight ship, and I respect that. And I respect the fact that he treated me well. And I think that's something. And you know what? You can build a civilization on that. And if he and I had a real disagreement, and if I called Jeremy up and said, fuck you, dude, come on my channel, I demand we have a conversation and hash this out, he would probably say, all right, I'll show up and I'll talk to you. And I respect that. So we have to be able to talk to each other. And the whole point of this channel, as I end every broadcast with, is every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And if you stay to the end of this broadcast, you'll hear me say that again. And I honestly believe that. I think that's very, very important. I really, really do. Let's see. We are... Julian Park says, Rob, I look up to you like a wise uncle. I guess I am the uncle, tonight. I've been stuck trying to translate a feature idea into my next short. Do you have any screenwriting advice for this type of problem, or just in general? That is a good question. First of all, here's the thing. I don't know what your feature idea is, but here's the thing. Sometimes trying to scale back your idea can help you. And I would ask you, like any great, I often talk about the original Twilight Zone. I always look at the original Twilight Zone as a barometer for how to write a great story. Because if you think about it, there are 5 seasons of the original Twilight Zone. I'm talking about the 1959 to 1964 Twilight Zone. The first 3 seasons and the 5th season are all half-an-hour episodes. The 4th season are hour-long episodes, and it's generally considered that the hour-long episodes don't work as well. But in the Twilight Zone, the reason why it's such a great resource to learn how to write is because within 25 minutes, you have to set up a character, You have to set up a situation, and you have to take that character through that situation, through its beginning, a middle, and its end. And it teaches you. It's a great way to learn how to structure a story. So if you have a feature idea, I would say take your character, and whatever the feature is, whatever your Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 are, distill it down into a Twilight Zone episode, and take your character and just take the story and make it smaller, and see if you can figure out a way to tell your idea. And by the way, your short film, and a lot of people do this, they'll make a great short film that gets later expanded into a feature. And if memory serves, didn't Andy Muschietti start with, was it Mama? He made a short and then turned the short into a feature, which later, developed into something. That is a great way to get into feature filmmaking, by turning your feature script into a short, and then you can take the short and turn it back into the feature, because then you've really understood, you've distilled your story down. I don't know if that helps, but that's what I would do. Get Well Acupuncture became a new member. Thanks. Thank you, Get Well Acupuncture. Kylo Ken says, Rob, do you think the Fallout series can kick the video game curse? Well, I think Last of Us did. I'd love to see it get the kind of accolades that Last of Us got. I love those games. The thing about the Fallout series is it's bigger. I think the platform is bigger. Look, again, it's all about character and story. Do you have good enough characters, and have you distilled the story down? The thing about The Last of Us it already had a great dramatic framework there, and they just delved into that. They expanded it when they needed to. They added to it, like what they added great stuff to the Cordyceps mythology. In Fallout, the question is, can they set up that world and give you great characters and a great story? And see, the thing about it is, I mean, it really depends on how deft the creators are. I think that any video game can be turned into any decent narrative. Look, I don't think something like, they talked about, they talked about, and forgive me if I'm wrong about this, but they talked about making a Twisted Metal Black TV series. And I used to love that game, and then it disappeared. I've never heard about it again. But I always thought to myself, well, how are they going to do that? They're going to have to make a bunch of stuff up out of whole cloth to get you to the characters in the game. But again, it's how good a creator is. Who are the characters, and what is the story? And that's how you do that. But I think any story with creators that know what they're doing, you can make something out of it. Mashby says, Rob, were you able to watch Tetris? I can't wait to watch Tetris. Have not watched yet. Just watch it, and it was so entertaining. Also, currently enjoying the show Shrinking. I love fast wit comedies. Yeah, well, everyone loves Shrinking. Everyone I talked to, at first people were like, now everybody is saying Shrinking is great. I haven't seen Shrinking yet, but I want to see it, and I can't wait to see Tetris. That's on Apple Plus. I love the idea that somebody made a video game, a movie about the video game, the making of that game, Tetris, and how it came to us. I love that idea. It's great. Let's see. Wow, there's a lot of people. Angelic Annihilator. Angelic Annihilator. I like that. Do you think the MCU will find its magic again? I think maybe if Deadpool 3 is good and they hit a streak of great movies after it with the X-Men. I loved the Infinity Saga. Even the movies that aren't as, like, you go back and you watch Iron Man 2 today, it's a lot better than you remember it. But even the movies that aren't so good are still pretty entertaining. I hated Love and Thunder. I hated it. And I really, Quantumania, all over the place. I think what the Marvel Cinematic Universe has lost, and I find it fascinating to see, is that I believe that the reason that the MCU was so successful is if you go back and you watch the first Iron Man, it's all there. It makes you believe that Tony Stark could exist in our world. By Iron Man opening the door, because we know people like that. or we wish people like that existed. And if you really look at what that movie's about, it's about one man having a crisis of conscience. Tony Stark, one of the smartest, richest men in the world, realizes that what his company is doing, he never really thought much about it, is bringing real death and destruction to the world. And what is his responsibility for that? And that crisis of conscience is what turns him into a superhero. It's not the Iron Man armor that did it. It was his change of heart. And that's when he decided, that was, he didn't know it yet, but to build a suit of armor around the world. And we relate to that. And if you look at Iron Man 1, the conflict at the end, he fights Obadiah Stane in the Ironmonger armor, but it's just two guys fighting for each one. One is fighting for greed and a company, and the other is fighting for his own soul and the soul of his company. And if you go back and you look at Iron Man 1, and then you go and look at Quantumania or Thor Love and Thunder, watch them as an experiment, as a thought experiment. Watch one right after the other. Start with Iron Man, and then follow it up with Thor Love and Thunder, or follow it up with Quantumania, and you realize that the believability, the human factor, you think it's still there because, yes, a superhero is always fighting for his family or whatever, but Quantumania and Thor Love and Thunder are completely untethered from our reality, meaning our human experience of the world. And it's just, it's all over the place. And it's lost. Even Endgame. Endgame, you sit down and you have a conversation between Steve Rogers sits down with Black Widow and basically says, how are you? I saw whales in the East River today. And they sit down, they have a very human conversation. And it feels like two people are talking to each other. No special effects. Two superheroes in a room that are just people. And they're trying to do the right thing and hold the world together post-snap. And you believe it, man. I mean, just look at the opening of Endgame with Hawkeye and his family. I was talking about this the other night on a stream, and it's just, man, what a crushing way to open that movie. But it brings you right in. You're invested because you believe. And I think that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is missing some of that, and that's why it's not working. So I think they can always find their magic again. They just have to bring back the human element. Joel Morford asks, what are your top 3 Cronenberg? Well, for me, I would probably say, I think Dead Ringers is his best movie, but I'm a huge Cronenberg fan. I would say Dead Ringers, The Fly, and The Brood for me. But there's an emotional component to that. I would then go on a different level, probably. That's tough, man. No, I'll go with that. I'm gonna go with Dead Ringers, The Fly, and The Brood. But again, I really like Videodrome. I really like They Came From Within. Scanners is fun. The Dead Zone's a great Stephen King adaptation, although it's really short. But I'm and even later Cronenberg, whether it's History of Violence, Eastern Promises, even Map to the Stars. But my top 3 would be Dead Ringers, The Fly, and The Brood. Yes, I'd go with that. Galliette Productions says, Io Nonkino here. Glad to be back. Hope to collaborate again in the future. Hey, bring it on, man. Let's do it. I need that. John Welbacker? John, how are you, man? Good to see you. Love you, Rob. Really do. But do you not see the irony in defending folk like Nerdrotic under the basis of fair open dialogue and not pre-hating after countless videos of Gary pre-hating stuff? Well, perhaps, but you know what? I'll tell you something. He's also done some great videos where he likes things and celebrates them. And, there's a reason why I think Gary might pre-hate something, but if something's good, Gary will say it's good. But I can see the irony. I understand that. But, Gary was also somebody that was on board with Picard season 3. Why? Because take the Star Trek out of it, but the characters in that show are going through, there is real emotion, real earned pathos in that show. And I think anybody, we watch stories for the human element in it. And I think that's where Picard season 3 really shines. And Gary liked it. And, I think, and Gary as a long time, I mean, I don't have to explain to anybody how Gary Beekler is a huge fan. It's in his backgrounds. You see it in every one of his videos. But, I'll tell you, I think Gary's really been stepping up. Maybe it'll come back. Who knows? Could be. Okay, I'm back. Maybe it'll stop spinning again. Who knows? I'll just keep going. I don't know, guys. If you can see me, it says the chat is disconnected. Maybe I have to go back to live. This has happened before. Hang on a second. Okay, I guess I'm back. I'm back in the New York groove. So I can just keep going. I always look at myself and go, what happened? I don't know. It froze. Something happened. Wolverine626 says, Jennifer Salke is the one that passed on Conan the Barbarian by the would-be future House of the Dragon season 1 showrunners for Rings of Power and World of Time. How's that working out? Yeah. And if you heard that story, it was because Conan's toxic masculinity personified. Look, I do think that Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series was a good bet. Again, maybe where's the money for that show? I actually liked Wheel of Time. I thought there was a lot of interesting stuff in there, but I'd only read the first book that Stubble McShave gave to me, but I didn't, I didn't have it was okay, but how's it working out? I don't know. It's a good question. Wallbacker, I'll get it one day. Mr. Locke says, you just solidified why you were the only reason I watched John Campy's show. I won't anymore. Burnettwork all the way. I know you won't call our questions idiot questions. There are no idiot questions. By the way, look, I still think people should watch John's show. He's been doing this for a long time. I think he does a good job, and maybe it was just time that I went on and did my own show, because it's fun. I like doing this. And now I can, really delve into, Mr. Green Arrow says, I haven't heard you defend John at this point. Just wondering, what are your thoughts of the man? I've heard a lot of hate, but you just kind of avoided. Well, listen, I've been streaming with John Campia for 8 years. A lot of what I even know about YouTube, I learned from John. And I'll tell you something, John ran a tight ship, and John was very good to me. And he was there when I needed help. He was there when I needed a friend. He was the first person after all the craziness that happened over at Collider, and then in the wake of John Schnapp's passing, which was some really hurtful stuff, to be honest. John Campia reached out to me, and he said, hey, man, do you want to come stream with me? And that was back in August of 2018. So, John has, John's done, people want to make it sort of like there's some hatred or animosity between us. I have no animosity for John Campia at all. And I really enjoyed, and I'm still going to be streaming. I really look forward to going to CinemaCon with him, because we have a lot of fun. And I really respect what he's done. Sometimes people, John was always kind of his own man, and I can understand that. And we're two very strong personalities, and I think that hey, it frees me up. Like, I always look at YouTube, to me, as being, and part of the reason I started streaming was Elizabeth bought me a microphone, and she said and who the person who always wanted me to start my own YouTube channel was John Schnepp. John Schnepp said, he thought I had an interesting take on the whole industry. And he was the one that said, you should start your own YouTube channel. And I'm like, well, what would I do on my own YouTube channel? And I didn't really know. He goes, you'd figure it out. And my whole approach to it is I think of YouTube as one 24-hour, 7-day a week science fiction convention. I've been going to science fiction conventions my whole life, like San Diego, and there's 150 different programs, panels that you can go watch. You can have your favorite creators, you can have pundits, and that's why I love YouTube. And that's kind of what I like for this channel, and I like for doing everything. I mean, I think it's great. I love that stuff, and sharing my enthusiasm with everybody and talking about the stuff we love. I love that. So I hope, Mr. Green Arrow, I wasn't. It's funny because I didn't think that I had to defend John. I mean, John Campy doesn't need me to defend him, but I don't think there's anything to defend, against, in terms of, all I can say is John was always very good to me, and I really enjoyed the time I stream with him on an everyday basis. And if we don't do it on an everyday basis, we'll do it occasionally, but it leaves me to focus on my own thing. And, my own thing is like, this is the 840th episode of Robservations. So I can get back to doing what I want to do, and also focus on other creators to bring on this channel as well. So, Galliette Productions says, love your mission, Rob. Working on 3 projects now. You gotta have projects going all the time. Arwix123 says, work in Hollywood is slow. Will it pick up soon? I don't know, but here's the great thing. In this day and age, you can make your own work. And I think that's the way to go, is do your own stuff. YouTube and other platforms give you a way to distribute. I mean, here's the thing that was unpopular. I am not, like, Ben Shapiro is not somebody whose politics I necessarily agree with. Smart guy. We have very different political views. However, the Daily Wire became a motion picture distributor. They picked up, Run, Fight, Hide, or Run, Fight. They started picking up movies. They made that Western with Gina Carano, and whether you agree with their politics, they became a place that you could make a film and they would distribute it, and they had a really interesting distribution model. They've got their subscribers that they could distribute to. Now, I remember first reporting on them when they became a distributor, and people criticized me for talking about them and being like, how can you talk about the Daily Wire? And I'm like, look, I'm talking about the Daily Wire as a company that is now distributing motion pictures. So if you have a motion picture that might have a conservative bent, or a genre title that might be considered that way, and you're looking for a place to distribute it, kind of like what's his name? The producer that made Bone Tomahawk and Riot in Cell Block 99 and Dragged Across Concrete, Dallas Saunier, I think. I mean, and I think he's teamed up with the Daily Wire too. I'm like, I love those 3 movies. And so now that there's a place where that Dallas Saunier can produce more. And I'm like, great. If I can get more entertainment, I don't necessarily care where I'm getting it from, but to have a place where you can do work. So if business in Hollywood is slow, you have to look elsewhere. You have to look to other people that have different economic models. Because if Hollywood, and Amazon is part of Hollywood, if they're spending $300 million to make 6 40-minute episodes of a TV show, they're not going to be in business very long. And let's pay the writers. Let's get behind what the Writers Guild wants. Let's get people paid what they're worth, so people can start making a living wage again. I mean, someone on that show was making a lot of money. I hope it was the writers. So let's hope we don't have a strike. Nicholas Allen became a new member of the channel. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. By the way, we do have member calls every other Saturday, where we just hang out and chat. So come on in. Not this Saturday. This Saturday, we have the all Spanish language show on actually it's 97% Spanish. Que pasa PGS? The great Roberto Suarez and Alex Montano do it, but you can watch it with subtitles. Hey Rob, what are your thoughts on Shinkai films? Well, to be honest, right off the bat, I don't know if I could answer that question. So I'd have to just, I was like, is that okay? I'll tell you, Shinkai films. Now I have to look. I was thinking Shinkai being like a genre, not the person. Makoto Shinkai is makes animated films. Now, I haven't seen a lot of his movies. I own Your Name, which I absolutely love, and I have a special edition box of that. And of course, J.J. Abrams is supposed to be remaking that. And then I fucking loved Weathering with You. So those are the only two films that I've seen. I've seen Your Name and Weathering with You. I have not seen there's a new one. Hang on. Susumi's Looking Up. I want to see that, but his earlier films, I have not seen. I've not seen them. But those are the two: Your Name and Weathering with You, both of which I own. I was thinking, is that a different genre? But those two films are wonderful. By the way, I recommend them to anyone. They're stunning. So, and those Blu-ray sets are great. Here's $5. Here's $5 is literally here's five. It's Abraham Lincoln. Here's $5. Campy is kind of the worst. No offense. He's always so pretentious and acts like he knows all, but not you, Rob. Not you. Here's $5. Well, I look. I really like John, and John and I worked together for a long time, and John ran a tight ship, man, and I can't tell you how many people have told me that John Campea inspired them to get into the YouTube space. So, he's doing something right. And I think that he certainly inspired me. And when I worked at Collider, here's the thing about John that I think a lot of people might not know. If John has a problem with you, he will tell you. He'll take you in his office and he's a straight shooter. I mean, you might not agree, but he doesn't talk shit necessarily behind your back. He'll say it to your face. And I appreciate that. I appreciate his honesty. And there was a time I remember in Collider when I got into some snit with somebody on Twitter for something. And it was a person that we worked together. I didn't know anything about this person. And I liked this person. And I made a comment, and they didn't know me very well. And I didn't realize that they'd put up with some online abuse before. I didn't know anything about this. And they got mad at me. And when I went into work at Collider, John took me in his office and he said, listen, it's been brought to my attention that you kind of got into a little beef with this person. And he was very cool about it. And he just says, I think you should apologize, and kind of explain the situation to me. And I really respected that. And I think there's something to be said for that kind of I like that. If John ever had a problem with me, like sometimes I'd be flaky, and like he would give me a mailbag to do, and he would want it done right away. And I didn't realize he wanted it done right away, and it might take me a day or two to do it. He'd be like, dude, I expected you to do it right away. And I'd be like, okay. And that happened more than once, because I'm working on Dota Dragon's Blood and finishing Tango Shalom, and sometimes I can be flaky because I bite off more than I can chew. And John would tell me, he'd be like, and I appreciate that. So Roger Paulson became a new member. Thanks, Roger. His name is Roger Paulson. Sean Hoover says, given the lukewarm reception to Ant-Man Quantumania, is a slight adjustment to upcoming multiverse movies needed? Can Feige course correct? I think that they have really, this idea of the multiverse was the wrong way to go. I really do. I think that people just don't care. And while like the fact that Multiverse of Madness, which it was fun to watch, but is completely inconsequential, because the entire multiverse is inconsequential. Nobody really cares. Nobody is. You know why people don't care? Because it's not the fun thing about. Here's Rob Burnett's theory of great superheroic movies. We need to, and the MCU did this with great aplomb. We need to believe that these superhero movies could possibly maybe take place in our world. Part of the fun of fantasizing when you're watching a superhero movie, it's like when we see in Civil War, the airport scene We've all been to airports. And the idea that superheroes are fighting in an airport, you know, and slamming against airliners out on the tarmac, that kind of a scene is something that we could imagine happening in our world. So it becomes delicious for us to watch. I don't give a fuck about the quantum realm. I'm never going to go there. There is not a quantum realm. So if superheroes and Kang variants and his army and giant ants, whatever the hell's going on in the quantum realm, don't care. Now, even in the real world here, the idea that I would shrink down to small size and I'd be in my daughter's bedroom with a train set, and the train set suddenly becomes a real train set because I'm tiny. Well, that's something I can grasp a hold of. And that's one of the great things. I mean, even when you're going into space, you know, we're kind of trained to go into space. So when you go into space, you know that, okay, I'm in space. Things are different. When I go to nowhere, I'm with the Guardians. I'm going to Xandar, whatever. We get that. But back on Earth, you got to make it so we still believe. And the quantum realm, for Thor, Love, and Thunder and Quantum Mania, I completely became detached from the Marvel universe. I'm detached. I'm out. I'm gone. And I think the entire multiverse, Kang Dynasty. I mean, I love the Kang Dynasty comic. I recently reread it, and I don't think anyone cares. And Secret Wars, who's going to fight in it? Who cares? Who do they have left? You know, they're going to bring back all these variants, and it's going to be, the whole thing is going to be gimmicky, and it's going to be completely untethered from the reality that we've loved in the MCU. And I think the whole thing is a mistake. I think they need to revamp and rethink and do something new and different. I'll tell you one thing. Having read the scripts for Secret Invasion, I love that. Secret Invasion is a great espionage sci-fi story. Judging from the trailers, it looks like they pulled it off because that was really great. That was really great. And it looks fantastic. That's where the Marvel Cinematic Universe should be. So we'll see. I don't know if I can course correct. It'll be interesting. They have a plan, but you know what? They can change because they got time. After Quantum Mania, I mean, you could say, okay, there's the Council of Kangs out there, or the Dynasty of Kangs. Do we ever need to see him again? Maybe they can just stay out there forever. Bring back Ultron. I'm not kidding. Bring him back. Armor Wars. Take over the world. John Welbacker. I'll get it one day. I will. Charles Davis Aiken. Is it Aiken? I think it's Aiken. Became a new member. Thanks, Charles. Appreciate it. Tom Jr. Jackson says, don't forget to check tips. And you keep freezing and there is no audio. I hope I'm not freezing anymore. And I will not forget to check tips. I will not do that because we have some tips, as a matter of fact. And let's take a look. We got a tip from John Suntress, the great John Suntress. And if you have not, he has the Word Balloon podcast. And if you've never heard the Word Balloon podcast, he deals with all your favorite pop culture creators, and he does a great job. John says, just back from C2E2 Con, a great time. Didn't Star Trek Disco, say they had expert fans in the room helping them with Trek? Any inside info on this, if this is true or not? Did they provide pushback and were they shut down? All the best. You're killing it lately. Well, thanks, John. I appreciate it. Well, they had Kirsten Beyer, who was one of the co-creators of Picard. She wrote some great Star Trek novels. But here's the problem. The last thing TV writers want to do is hear from Star Trek fans, which is one of the problems with people that are working on these IPs. Everybody wants to make their own show. I mean, the great thing to me about what Terry Matalas wanted to do, and I think he succeeded with Picard Season 3, is that he loves Star Trek. I mean, he goes all the way back. He worked in post-production on Deep Space Nine, and he worked for Brandon Braga on Voyager and Enterprise. So, he's the real deal. He is the real deal. So, John goes on to say, MGM still owns Blackula, Shaft, Cleopatra Jones, and many 70s blaxploitation franchises. Our pal Rodney Barnes just made a great Blackula graphic novel continuation story, and I believe is using it as a proof of concept pitch for a new series or film. First of all, Rodney Barnes, I interviewed him back for there was an online convention. It was a lot of fun, and I got to do a great interview. Rodney Barnes is one of my favorite people I've interviewed. I love his work. You know, I would I didn't know he did a Blackula comic. For those of you who don't know, there was a movie, two Blackula back in the early. I mean, can you even say, somebody's going to cancel me for saying this, but there was an entire genre of films in the early 70s, early to mid 70s, known as blaxploitation, and that's where Cleopatra Jones and Coffee and Shaft and Slaughter in Africa, Slaughter's Big Score, Dolomite. If you saw Eddie Murphy in Dolomite Is My Name, Rudy Ray Moore. And William Marshall, who played Dr. Richard Daystrom in the second season Star Trek episode The Ultimate Computer, creator of the Duotronic Circuit, he played Dracula. Building on my work. He was a great Blackula. And if they're going to do a new Blackula movie, bring it on. But you know what? I hope they don't make it postmodern and funny. I would love to see a hardcore Blackula movie with lots of and have it be a total seductor, a lot of sex and violence. Man, and if Rodney Barnes is writing and producing it, it'll get made. Hell, he should direct it. Why not? Our friend Sonny Dominguez says, great suggestions regarding Jennifer and Amazon. You need to make a movie. They need to make you a movie studio head, movie deals, martini lunches, and lines of blow. Have you watched Vice TV's Icons Unearthed Marvel yet? Oh, I have not. I would love to do that. I got to watch that. I like what Vice TV does. Well, here's the thing. I mean, it would be frustrating for me to work at a studio and not have the power. Like, look, as I said, I would go out and greenlight 20 things tomorrow. You know, and I would oversee them all. I would personally hire people. I would go out and hire people. I wouldn't go like, who just directed the last big franchise property? Let's just go get them. No, I'd handpick everybody. I'd call people on the phone and be like, hey, I want you to do this. And I would get their home numbers and call them directly. And I'm going to say one thing. We're not going to make 6 40-minute episodes that cost $300 million. We're not going to do that. And because I would say I know best. And I don't care who you are. And I don't care what kind of relationship I want to have with you. If you're spending $300 million on 6 episodes of a 40-minute TV show, we're never going to be friends anyway. You fucked it all up already, and I don't want to continue a working relationship with you. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to pay you $8 million if our deal every year, unless it amounts to something. What the hell's going on here? You know, I did a stream with Script Doctor, a great stream about fraudulent creation. To me, that's the very definition of fraudulent creation. You don't pay somebody $8 million a year. Give them so for those of you who don't know, there used to be a thing, I mean, it's still a thing, where you would have what's called a housekeeping deal at a studio. You'd have an office on the studio, and they would pay you overhead. You would develop properties while you live there, and you would see what you would get made. Early in my career, I worked for Joel Silver, who had a housekeeping deal on the Warner lot right across the hall. There was like this donut building, and it was Joel Silver on one side and Richard Donner here. You know, and then in between on the side, the brackets of you had the Xerox machines and the story departments, and it was great. And they would make things. But nowadays, $8 million a year to not do anything. If I was getting paid $8 million a year, I'd have 10 things in production. I don't know why you would want to get that money and not make anything. I mean, I do know why. Because you get paid $8 million and you don't have to make anything. So that would that's not what I would want to do. So Tom, I checked tips. Thank you for that. Will Apan says, yes, it's time for you to do your own show. Really hoping some movie news kind of thing. Oh, we're going to be doing something like that. That's coming. There's going to be a panel show. It's coming. I'm just trying to define what it's going to be. I will say this. One of the things I've learned from John is if you do a panel show like that, it should have some structure. So people tune in every day and they can look forward to parts of the show they want to hear from. I have to decide what it's going to be, and I don't quite know what it's going to be yet. But you know, I've been doing this show, Will, for 4 years. Actually, this is my 5th year doing it. So East Village says, hey, Rob, just keep doing your great work, mate. From Perth, Australia. Love your brain and all the topics and views. You're an inspiration, my friend. Have you watched History of the World Part 2? I haven't. I'm pretty hit and miss on Mel Brooks. I like early Mel Brooks, like High Anxiety. I did like History of the World. Of course, Young Frankenstein, To Be or Not to Be. Robin Hood, Men in Tights, and I am not a Spaceballs fan. I know people are throwing tomatoes at me from afar, but I have not watched History of the World Part 2. I'm curious to see it, though, but I have not heard good things. I've not heard good things, but I want it to be good. I hope it's good. Glenn, my friend Glenn Mark, all the way down from, all the way from New Zealand. Let's see. I have lost where I've lost where I was. Oh, there we go. Glenn Mark says, sorry, Rob, I just got to jump in here real quick. Unfortunately, I'm working on Thursday and Friday New Zealand time. Keen to reschedule a time with you, though. Okay, no worries. We can do that. Mikey Lito says, folks, Robservations have been around a long time. I watched episode 1. Your friend who built a Star Wars speeder. It was great. 840 more. Peace and long life. You know, it's funny. Mikey Lito, Mikey speaks the truth. I thought this show was going to be like a half documentary, half commentary show, and it took me like 3 months to do that first episode. That didn't work out. It didn't work out. Thank you, Mikey. Alex Donovan said, hey, Rob, have you seen Cocaine Bear? I did see Cocaine Bear. I just did today. I thought it was great. Keep up the great work. You know what was great about Cocaine Bear? Is it's a movie that knew exactly what it wanted to be. And I thoroughly enjoy. I mean, look, do I think it was a great movie? No. It was a hoot, though. And I love the fact that it got made. You know, and I think, like, for me, like, I was not a fan. I'm not a fan of The Asylum. I don't like movies that set out to be campy or silly or anything like that. But Cocaine Bear skirted the edge for me. But I liked it. So, yeah. Yeah. Mr. Green Arrow goes on to say, hey, man, I respect you saying that. I heard you read a lot of negative comments about John, but not say much in response, so I really was just curious. I love John and I love you. I was just curious. Well, Mr. Green Arrow, I'm happy to answer those questions. Yeah, I don't, you know, I know that people get angry, and I've been very flattered at the generally nice response that people have given me, which is fantastic, which leads me to believe that I should be more myself, and which is great. Yeah. Script Doctor's here, who I said I did the great fraudulent creator stream on his channel, which you should check out. Script Doctor says, hoping for no WGA strike, but I don't like their flexibility to AI-assisted writers. Producers will exploit that. Writers should be paid to write. I cannot agree with you more. As a matter of fact, on this channel, you can find, if you look down on the front page, there's interviews I've done with certain people in Hollywood, and I did do a pretty great interview with David Goodman, the president of the WGA. And I did that a couple years ago for the 400th show of this. And check that out. But Scripty, I can't agree with you more. And AI writing is here to stay. But I don't know, I don't know how we're going to keep away from using AI writing. I don't know how that's going to work, and how can anybody prove it? But I disagree. I mean, I agree with you. I don't think that it should be part of. I don't think the WGA should sanction AI. I really don't. At least I just don't. Grail Garrett became a new member. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Welcome to the channel. Thomas Logan is back and says, if you're in 1997, you're a suit at Warner Brothers, and Wesley Strick and Tim Burton's Superman Lives script with Cage attached to star lands on your desk, do you green light it? No, I don't. I don't green light it. Rest in peace, Schnepp. It was too. Here's the thing. I don't green light it because I personally don't think that Tim Burton would have made the greatest fit. And I love that documentary. I'm in that documentary. I think that Superman needs to have a much more classical approach. You know, the Fleischer Superman cartoons, the Superman animated series. To me, my first Superman will always be George Reeves growing up. And then it was funny when I saw Superman in 1978 when I was a kid, it was hard for me to disassociate the fact that George Reeves was not related or to Christopher Reeves. Christopher Reeve and George Reeves were two different people. They didn't even have the same last name. They just sounded similar, and one was missing an S. But to me, George Reeves was the classical Superman. You know, the Fleischer cartoons, and it would have been too goofy for me. I wouldn't have greenlit it if I was an exec. Will LePan says, how about trailer reactions? YouTube missing that RMB reaction. If you need help, let us know. I'm sure you got a bunch of people eager to collaborate. You know, here's the thing. Trailer reactions to me are not necessarily something. I love trailers, but I don't want to react to trailers because to me, I'm excited to see, like, most of the things that are coming out, I'm excited for. So anytime I see a trailer, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see the trailer. But whether it was a good trailer or a bad trailer, I don't know if I'd want to. I'm just curious to see the film itself. So I don't know if I would do trailer reactions. Actually, Galactic J says, what's the line from Secret Invasion you really liked? Was that a bit of it in the trailer? Yes. Yes, it was. There was a bit of it in the trailer. And I think there was a bit of it in the trailer. And a character is wondering about the disposition of people in the Marvel Universe. Like, you know, where are the Asgardians? Where are the Avengers? Where the hell is Fury? It's just a great line that really sets the... It's in the first episode, in the first 10 minutes, and it sort of sets the tone. It's good. I really liked it. Mashby asks, how is your model building going? I'm nearly done with painting my Warhammer miniatures. Patience is the key. Well, as you all know, I am building a 4.5-foot model of the space battleship Andromeda that I've been building for like a month and a half. I haven't worked on it very much in the last couple weeks. It's very complex. There's it's die cast metal. It's just a beast. And I got to get back into it. I got to finish it. I'm about 75% of the way through it, and I need to finish it. I really do. So it's tough. You guys got to keep going. John Welbacker is back. It's my job to know how to build YouTube audiences. John had something with Weekly Hero, gave up on it too quick, and his channel's set up for anything other than the John Campy Show to fail. Rooting for you and this channel. Well, thank you. Yeah, I thought, look, I mean, I know that Chris, you know, is still going to be working with John, but I don't know if he has like a non-compete or exclusive with her. But I'd still like to do like a Rob and Chris Have Issues show and do something like that. Yeah, I'd love to do that. But I think that, look, anything, I didn't understand like the afternoon shows. I mean, we could have made content, and I was bummed out because our audience was getting bigger. And Chris and I were getting better, I thought, all the time. So, yeah. Willapan says, but that Blue Beetle trailer, I was pleased. I like that. I liked that Blue Beetle trailer. I liked that. I thought it was interesting. You know, it was different than I thought it was going to be. But it looked good. I'll go. Rwix123 says, I just got the McFarlane Spider-Man Omnibus. Thoughts? You know what? I remember that was the Doom, or what is it? Boom, when it first came out. I loved McFarlane Spider-Man. The art alone. The stories, but the art alone, his Spider-Man was awesome. It was awesome. So I didn't know that had come out. I'm sure it's great. But I loved it. I loved the comics when they came out. John's back. John says, hot take. I actually think Disco season 3 and 4 had some really great classic Star Trek moments and earned its pips as far as I'm concerned. Here's my whole thing about I just hated the 31st century that they gave us. I hated it. I thought it was the most. It made no sense. It was so ridiculous. The whole idea of the burn made no sense. It was. I understand what they were trying to do, but I just couldn't get past it. However, that said, in the 4th season, the idea of this extra galactic race, I thought was interesting, but just not very well executed. But I enjoyed it. I like the idea of it, but still overall, I just can't. I can't watch that show. Every time they show you a turbo lift in dead space and all, I can't get past any of that gobbledygook. I know it's. I don't know if I. Yeah. Chris Goodman has become a member of the channel. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Sean Hoover said the Next Generation had a spec script policy. Any that got made, a lot of the spec scripts got made. As a matter of fact, Ron Moore began his writing career with a spec script. He made not The Offspring. The Bonding. The 3rd season episode, The Bonding. That was a spec script that he wrote. And so there were a lot of writers and a lot of the time the spec scripts, they would buy them and rewrite them so the writers would get the story by. But there were a lot of scripts that got made. Spec scripts, submissions, not compared to how many they got sent, but some did. And that's how Ron Moore began his writing career, was with The Bonding, and that was a spec script. So more than you would think. So yeah, it's a good question, Sean. Joel Morford says, do you think we are seeing a potential streaming bubble crash, and how would this impact theatrical content as well? I have to say, I think that after reading that article about Amazon, you look at how much money is being spent. Amazon has the money to spend because there's no accountability really. But my God, we've got to tighten our bootstraps, and you've got to. They're spending so much money and they're not seeing enough of a return because they've look. You have to spend money effectively, and you have to bring down the costs, and that requires people that are deft. You have to have deft producers that really know how to make television, and I don't think there's going to be a crash per se. They just cut back on spending, and people always want to be entertained. It's not like people are going to turn off their streaming services as long as great shows are being made, but they've got to figure out ways to. I mean, you wonder when they talk about how much money, the fact that The Citadel is the second most, that would make it the second most expensive TV show ever made. Why? I don't know. It shouldn't be that way. So I don't think there's going to be a crash, though, because people always want to watch things. Legion0129 says, I watch you as Gary, Mahler, Drinker, etc. You're the only one I see getting messages trying to tell you who and who not to stream with. It blows my mind. I hope you never change. I love you. Yeah, it was really funny. Today this guy was attacking me for streaming with Gary and talking about Gary streaming with Alex Jones. And yet I was on the same, this guy was not attacking the other guys on the Popcast for streaming with Gary. It's such a weird thing, but it's how you position yourself, and I'm always saying, look, we got to talk to people. And then everyone says, well, if so-and-so has talked to so-and-so, then you shouldn't talk to them. And when I hear that from people, I'm like, what world do you live in? And I think when you work in Hollywood, when you work in the entertainment business, you learn very quickly how to work with people that you don't even like. And it's a lot. It is not difficult on any of these channels. Like if I were to stream with anybody, and if you look at the conversations we have about, I streamed with the Critical Drinker and Gary celebrating the anniversary of the 20th anniversary of the Two Towers. Look at that stream. That was a great stream. And we're all there celebrating what we love. No one loves Lord of the Rings more than Gary does. And it's like, I would never have not participated in that stream. And yeah, you're right. People, I I don't know why everyone's always coming after me. It's such a weird thing. But I'll just tell you my personality, and I think anybody will tell you this. I was always predisposed to liking all different kinds of people. When I was in high school, I liked everybody. I was friends with the stoners and the rockers and the sport people in the sports teams, drama club people. I was in the newspaper and student government. I like people in general. And I've always liked people. And I got that from my dad. My dad, I never heard my parents say my mom's still alive. Actually, her birthday's on April 11th. I never heard my father say an unkind word about another human being, ever. And he liked people. Like my dad loved nothing better than going to a party and just smoking a cigar and strolling through the party and just, hey, how's it going? And talk to people. I think I got that from my dad. He loved people. Glenn Mark says the late G. Pinsent, the voice of Babar, was in Blackula. I didn't know that. That is very interesting. Juan Moreno says, are you a fan of the Halo games? To be honest, I played the first Halo game when it first came out. And I loved it. It was great. If so, how important would it be to keep the iconic score for a proper movie adaptation? Look, I think you have to. You can have somebody come in and rescore the whole. I mean, by all means, write a new score, but you've got to keep some of that iconic Halo music. You have to. I mean, it's part of the iconography. Because you know what? It would feel like something was missing without it. If you didn't have it, it would feel like something is missing. Cinema Quirks says, took your advice. I watched I, Borg. Old Trek made the Borg an allegory for communism and how one man, Hugh, can destroy the Borg with individuality. It's true, right? Man, and what a far cry from today with all these collectivists that want to get rid of free speech. What? And by the way, isn't that episode good? It's really good. Corey Fleming says, yo, Rob, I just pre-ordered Crosshair from the Bad Batch, but I'm itching for the Batman hot toy. Also, thanks for talking to me when I was at work during the stream on Saturday. Oh, well, Corey, it was good to talk with you, and good for you for ordering hot toys, but don't blame me. If you're going to buy one from the Bad Batch, you're going to get the entire Bad Batch. Those are great Hot Toys figures, too. They're really great, and they're awesome. So, yeah, good job. And I'll always talk to you. And remember, we're having another member stream a week from this coming Saturday. WraithX7 says, hey, Rob, have you ever thought about teaming up with Bat in the Sun and directing and writing a Moon Knight fan film? I've never thought about that. I don't know those guys, but I would love to make a Moon Knight fan film. It would be fantastic. You know what I'd love to do? Like, I would, just off the top of my head, Werewolf by Night would be too much. But Moon Knight 25 of the Sienkiewicz, Doug Mensch run with the Black Spectre. And I'd have Moon Knight fight the Black Spectre. I'd love to see that. I think that would be way cool. Mark Spector, speaking of Moon Knight, Mark Spector's avatar said, sup, Rob, I emailed you an idea I had for the channel. I will probably get to that soon. I was going to read letters tonight, but I didn't realize the stream would go so long. John Welbacker goes on to say, real talk regarding YouTube. There is an important value in not just being live. If all you do is live streams, you either need robust clip outs or non-live shows. The algo doesn't post live on demand. You're right. That is why I'm starting a new thing. I just saw some graphics for it. I'm starting a new thing called RMB's 10 in 20. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with Star Trek, and I'm going to make 20-minute videos of my top. It's going to be like a top 10 list, but instead, I'm going to start with Star Trek because people always ask. I'm going to start with Star Trek, the original series. And I'm going to go through and give you the 10, like if you're not a Star Trek fan, there's so many, you find it daunting to jump in. I'm going to give you a 10 episodes you should watch. Not all the best episodes, but all the essential episodes you need to sort of understand Star Trek. So in the first season, you'll see the first Klingon episode. You'll see the first Romulan episode. You'll see Space Seed with Khan. Then I'll give you a few more episodes that I think are essential to understanding Star Trek. So it'll bring you up to speed. So if you watch those episodes, you'll, one, have a great time watching them. And two, you'll kind of understand Star Trek, but without having to watch the literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes of all time. So I'm going to start doing those. And I'm going to do this with a lot of things. Like, what are my 10 favorite Stephen King books? You know, what are my 10 favorite Duran Duran songs? I don't know. But I'm going to start with Star Trek. And that, you know, probably going to start pretty soon. Pretty soon. So those will be fun. But you're right. That's what I'm lacking on this channel. I am lacking clip outs. And I got to do more of that. Get that algorithm working for me. But that's actually great advice. My friend Culture Wars Diplomacy, Blue Beetle reminds me of a Guyver American movie. Dude, it totally looked like the Guyver to me, and I'm so there for it. I mean, have you seen the new trailer for Kamen Rider? It was at Shin Kamen Rider? Man, I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that. It totally looked like, though, Blue Beetle totally looked like an American Guyver movie. Loved it. Let's see. Christopher says, thoughts about Metalis saying on the Popcast that other creators are ultra passionate about Trek. Eye rolls and commentators felt attacked. They did? Well, there are passionate creators. I mean, Matt and Christopher Monfett, who Terry was working with, are passionate about Star Trek. Todd Stashwick, who played Liam Shaw, is an old school original Star Trek fan. So there are all, I think that maybe people were thinking that he was referring to, you know, there's a lot of people. Kirsten Beyer, who works on Discovery and co-created Picard, she's a Voyager novelist, and her Voyager novels are quite good. You know, if you like Star Trek novels, which I do. So there are other passionate creators about Star Trek. I think that, you know, the idea that everyone gets so mad about Alex Kurtzman all the time. Alex Kurtzman is passionate about making sure that he keeps the Star Trek franchise and the cast rolling in. So he's passionate about Star Trek too. I just don't think he's ever cracked open the Star Trek technical manual or read Mr. Scott's Guide to the Enterprise, which maybe he should. He might find something in there to like. Will LePan says, I followed your channel 2 years. It's just I enjoyed you a lot on the John Campea show. So if you're doing something close, it doesn't need to be a carbon copy of the John Campea show. Then you definitely got a new member right here, 100%. Well, thank you. I will not do something close to the John Campea show. It'll be different. I like John's structure, but mine's much more, my idea is much more op-ed. I'd love to call up Jennifer Salke and have her come on the show. I totally would. And I would totally call her up and go, Jen, let's have a talk. Come on. We'd have fun. You know, there's a lot of interesting, like there's the Ankler, Puck. There's a lot of the industry newsletter deal where people are doing daily entertainment news, which is pretty fascinating. There's a lot of that, a lot of upscale commentators coming out that I think are trying to compete in the YouTube space. If they move over to the YouTube space, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. And we'll see what happens. Jer Mannanen says, it's great to see you more on your own channel. Thanks, Jer. I appreciate it. And you're old school. And by the way, Jer, we got to figure out a way to promote your role-playing game stuff on this channel. Maybe have you come on and talk about it, because what you sent me was very impressive. Culture Wars Diplomacy said, Daryl Davis got many people out of the Klan by willing to be a black man talking to and even driving people to Klan meetings. I didn't know that. Yeah, you got to talk to people. You really do. And look, there's a lot of douchebags in the world, but I've found that there's a lot more that are not. And I found that I've learned a lot more talking to people than spending time not talking to people. And we, as you know, it's so crazy to me. We're all the Americans that are watching. I know there's a lot of non-Americans watching, but my God, I mean, Americans are supposed to be leading the charge. We're the great melting pot. I can't even imagine what it's like to be looking out, or from America outward, looking in at us right now. The way we treat one another, the things that we seem to be wrapped up in when there's so many important things going on in the world. We're the ones that should be the people that talk to each other the most. And what can you do? Juan Moreno says, are you excited? By the way, Culture Wars Diplomacy, that's really interesting about Daryl Davis. It's very interesting. Juan Moreno says, are you excited for Amazon's Warhammer series? Yes. I think it's going to be great. I do not envy the people, the showrunners that are going to work with Henry Cavill on that, because, man, now there's something that I would be terrified of, to try and put that together as a show. Because, man, there's a lot of people that are going to want to see that. I hope it's great. There's so much lore there. I wouldn't even know where to begin. All I know is I really love the Harlequin army. Not because the Joker, just because I think it'd be great to have an army of Harlequins in the Warhammer universe. I just don't want to paint them. So, and on that note, everyone, I'm going to bring this stream to an end. Thomas Logan says, Bobby, it's midnight. 86 the Diet Coke, bring out the bourbon. When will you start the Kickstarter for the fall 23 Robservations? Let's get physical media Euro trip. I've got to figure that out. I mean, to be honest, Thomas, so for those of you who don't know, I've been talking to the movie I made, Tango Shalom, that I produced and edited, is opening in Germany. It was going to open in June. Now it's opening in September. And what I was thinking about doing is see, this is the thing that I feel weird about. I was thinking about crowdfunding a trip to Europe, because I couldn't afford to go myself, but I would crowdfund a trip to Europe. It'd kind of be like when John had his 100 million view party, where he sold tickets. We rented out a theater. And what I would do is go to Europe for 2 weeks and drive around, and go have meet and greet events. You know, maybe see if I could rent out a venue, or just go to bars, or restaurants, and just meet with members of this community, the Post-Geek Singularity community, and have events and just shoot the shit with fans and do live broadcasts wherever I went. Literally brought the face cam and hook up microphones and just find if I could do live shows from locations and have people come and chat with you guys, put you guys up. How fun would that be? And I would want to go, places I'd want to hit. I've never been to Norway. And Terrier, my friend Terrier, who I've known now for 20 years, Terrier, who's an imagination connoisseur, he came down in 2012 to England to go see Skyfall with us, because we went to England to go see Skyfall because it opened there before before it opened in the U.S. So, we'll see. I think that would be pretty fun. I don't know what that would cost. But hey, I just got my brand new passport. I'm all RSDF chipped out, and they can follow my every move. But it would be a lot of fun, and just spend 2 weeks and go to a different place every day. Jump on a train, get Dieter to go with me. How funny would that be? We'd go to Germany, France, Spain. I want to go to Portugal. We got people in Portugal too, and then go all the way up to Sweden and Denmark and places I've been before, but I'd love to go. I've never been to Benelux. I've never been around those territories. I want to go to Montenegro and go to the Casino Royale. I think it'd be fun. Yeah. Kyle Fiedler says, I don't know. Dieter's German. Dieter is German. From Saarbrücken, Deutschland. But anyway, everyone, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank everybody for becoming members. I want to thank the great Tom Jr. Jackson for being a moderator on the channel. So thank you, Tom. I want to thank everybody for generously supporting this channel via Super Chats and tips. And most of all, I want to thank everybody for the generous outpouring of support and generosity and just kind words that everyone has been saying about me over the past couple weeks. It's really meant a lot because, change, I'm not going to lie, it's been a little hard, it hasn't been easy, but it's been really nice hearing everyone's kind words. So I very much appreciate that. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I would say to everyone, have a better night. And I mean that sincerely. Yes, I do. And Jennifer, you need any help? You got my number.